Welcome back to the 7th grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about cults, black people, and cults. It's not something that you hear about unless you really have direct contact with it, or you might hear it in passing from a relative, but it is definitely real. First, you must understand there's a certain type of person that gets involved in cults. That type of person usually has issues. And one of those issues can be codependence. Is one issue of people who give their lives to cults. It's not the cult, it's the person. That person has an issue. The second is the type of person that strives for perfection. They always want to fix things about themselves or try and fix the world. And they're somewhat of an idealist. The next is a person who is young and finding their purpose in life or searching for their identity. That can be manifesting in the way that a person needs a father figure, or a young woman is looking for a male figure of authority to submit to, or a young man is looking for a big brother or a father figure. And the next one is a person who has self-esteem issues. These types of
Looking for
people,
acceptance.
yes, they're looking for acceptance, but these type of people, they often they're spotted quickly by the recruiters of these cults. And once they figure out that particular flaw, they then love bomb this person. And they basically like shower this person with all types of compliments, and they build them up, and they give them a relatively easy responsibility that they could really excel at, to give them this false sense of security. So those are some of the reasons that people join cults. But black people in particular are what we're talking about. And we're not talking about Jonestown, because that really wasn't a black cult, even though that had black people in it. We're talking about
Yeah, it was eighty
straight
percent
up,
black.
right? We're talking about straight up black cults. If you have lived in any of the major cities in the United States, you have heard of some of the ones that we're about to be talking about. One of which was founded by a man named Dwight York, also known as Malachi York. And he
Mm.
created various religious political groups starting back in 1967 with the Nubian Islamic Hebrews. In 1990, he moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and he took his group to Putnam County, Georgia. And the name of that group was the United Nation of Nuwabian Moors. Now, there they built Tamaray. Tamaray was a de facto city or state, if you will, for the Nuwabians. There were black wooden pyramids that dotted the property. So imagine like being there in this environment, and as a black person being in this environment, and you're seeing these black pyramids, throughout this compound. So already
I'm
you're,
digging it.
yeah, you
Yeah,
see
I'm digging it.
exactly. So
I'm
it's
feeling it.
it's playing
Yeah.
to these things that we aspire to have: a nation, identity. And so York, what he did is he cobbled together some of the teachings from the Egyptian mystery schools, small bits and pieces from the Quran, pieces from the Torah, cryptozoology, and ufology. That's right, UFOs, because he believed
UFOs.
he was from the planet Risk, Rizq. And I remember hearing about this guy, and it was only in whispers that brothers would say, "Yeah, he can shapeshift. He's a shapeshifter, and he came here from another planet." I'm like, "Are you for real, motherfucker? You playing with me right now? Like, you believe in this stupid shit?"
Well,
And
hold on. First things first. I want to see it. Anytime somebody says that kind of stuff, me as a person, I want to see it. I
mhm.
don't care. Look, I don't care what you believe. Show me. I mean, like, okay, because if I see you do that, maybe this guy knows something. Maybe he's legit. It never happens.
Right.
It doesn't take place.
So, but here's the thing, though. But here's the thing. So, he was locked up in 2002 and convicted in 2004. So, before I go into the details of that, motherfucker, if you can shape change into a prison guard and walk the fuck up out of the jail.
Get your look. You don't have a limitation. Okay, look. God doesn't have limitations. and the Son of God doesn't either. If you got some kind of connection to God or aliens, that means that you don't have human limitations. You should be able to do some special shit. That's all I'm saying. I don't know about nobody else. I, here's the thing that happened in my personal life, because briefly before we got on, I said something happened in my personal life, and it geared me for this. You know what I'm saying? It has me ready for this. First things first. Let's talk the definition of cult: a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister, misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. That's the definition of cult. Now let's get biblical. Look at the definition of idolatry, which you see in the Bible a lot: extreme adoration, love, or reverence for something or someone. Same definition as the third one that was part of cult. So you got to recognize this is not a new thing. This has been going on for years. Brother Roscoe was saying that certain kind of people gravitate towards certain things. It's just like whenever you watch the animal shows and the lion looks at the wildebeest, he can tell which one's sick. That's how these people are. They can tell what kind of people need something. And don't get me wrong, smart people and strong people have been drawn into different things. That's because, like my brother just said, this guy started out with the whole African vibe. You got pyramids everywhere. So it's easy for somebody to reckon, like, hey, I can identify with that. This Christianity thing ain't for me. I got questions nobody can answer. Let me try something different. So that's how you get intelligent people. So not everybody who gets sucked into this, we're not saying these people are all weak or they all got issues. It's the fact that these people know how to
They were
market what they're
exploited
selling.
in some way. Those
Yes,
recruiters
yes.
saw something about that person.
Hmm.
They saw one of
Yeah.
five criteria and they exploited that. And this person, who thought that they were benevolent and like this is a group that's out to help them, didn't realize that they were walking into a den of wolves.
Look, they have to hide their intentions or they wouldn't get people to get involved. They wouldn't get people to pay attention if they didn't, hey, I ain't showing you everything. And this goes to all the stuff we talk about, whether it's Freemason. We talk about that all the time. How, look, hey, the first four or five, degrees don't know what everybody else is doing, and then 15th degree, you find out that everything you learned before that was a lie. Then you get to the 30th degree, then you find out everything. So they always do that. They always present you with something, some knowledge, or they give you something that makes you think, like, oh yeah, I get it, and everybody else don't get it.
And
Um,
everything is a
you
test.
know, yeah, yes, very good. Everything was a test. This whole thing, like, see, you passed. That they reward you, and that's how you get sucked in. The reason I brought up the whole idolatry thing is because, like I said, in my personal life, I told you a lot of my friends and people are getting into these Israelite brothers, or people are getting into these different. And I'm not saying they're a cult, but what I'm saying is they got cult tendencies. Anytime you deal with Christianity, and they always focus on the Old Testament, something I learned a long time ago. When I was a kid, my mom, and you also know my Sunday school teacher. And something that I learned is that the New Testament cancels out the Old Testament. The Old Testament are these old rules, and the New Testament is Christ. And if you pay attention to how this New Testament works, it's much more spiritual than the Old Testament. So anytime you got somebody who's pushing so much of that Old Testament, you really need to be careful, because the Old Testament, it would it was based on, like, you had like the Levitical priest, and you had to be special, and only Jews were special, and only Hebrews were special. And so whenever you got somebody focusing on that Old Testament, usually it's a form of control. The New Testament, and that's another thing. You beware. First things first. With all these there aren't new religions, but with all these people taking over, my brother just pointed out, a lot of these guys have been to jail. So they had nothing else to do but read the Bible. So they get out, they want to become ministers. And I'm not doubting that person, but I'm just trying to tell you that a lot of these cats don't have your best interest at heart.
Okay,
So,
so but here's the thing
so
though. Some of these people that they recruit, for example, so you have a convict most of the time that are leading these people, a
mm-hmm,
charismatic convict that are leading these people. Now, these clean cut kids, they gravitate toward this guy because they may not know that he was a convict, or they may know, and they're intrigued by like this life that they've never lived before because they grew up living a sheltered life, and then
look,
they
there's
fall
nothing
in
wrong with
league with
convicts,
this. Look, no wait, I'm making this point though. They fall in league with this convict, and they say that oh he's The man did him wrong, and like he's reformed, and like he did his time, he paid his debts to society, and like now he's doing right by black folks. Listen, that dude is a convict for a reason. His ass got locked up for a reason. Now, whether it was justified or not is a different story. But he was locked up, and people change when they're locked up. They become institutionalized. Now, the problem is that over time, if that person is a true criminal, it will reveal itself. It will reveal
That's
itself.
real.
Yes.
That's real.
And it did reveal itself with Malachi York, with Dwight York, because he began to traffic little kids for sexual purposes over state lines. He was trafficking. He was a sex trafficker of children, a pedophile sex trafficker. So that is what he got convicted for. And he got sentenced 135 years. Now, that's 13.5. That judge was a Mason. He knew what the fuck he was doing when he locked that dude up. So that
That was
Mason,
punishment. He got punished.
the list, of course, he got punished by a secret society that basically told him, "We run America. Your black ass ain't gonna come in here and start this. I'm a separate entity. I'm metaphysical. I can shape change. I'm Africa, Africa, Africa. Uh-uh. They ain't having that shit. The only pyramids around the U.S. and obelisks around the U.S. are gonna be these blue and
Or in
gray
DC.
motherfuckers. Are gonna be these blue and gray motherfuckers who have them also at their lodges. In Atlanta, the main one right across from the Amtrak train station. There's a lot. There's a obelisk right there, a big old like 15-foot tall obelisk right there. Can't miss it. That's my point. It's like they want to be the ones putting up the obelisk. They want to be the ones that's putting up all the Egyptian themed shit.
Hmm.
Because if you go to Rome, you'll see Egyptian obelisks all over the place, stolen. Ethiopia was the only one that got their shit returned to them.
Fact. Yes. Yes. Very
White
true.
people
Yeah.
want to be the ones. Europeans want to be the ones to
To
lay
present it to
claim
you.
to preserve African Egyptian artifacts. And when you walk around saying I'm this and I'm that and I'm emancipated and I'm sovereign and you can't have my birth certificate and I'm that and this and that, you gonna go up against some real shit. You gotta know what you're going up against. And this guy, he fucked up because his true reptilian nature was revealed. That he was a criminal and he was a piece of shit pedophile.
Period.
Yep.
Look, I think, like I said, the reason I was bringing up the Old and New Testament is because there was something I wrestled with for a long time in the New Testament. It's in Matthew when Christ says, "All things are made clean through me," and that's what my mom taught me, and that's what people in my church taught me, saying, "Well, look, the reason we can eat what we want, we ain't the Old Testament is because Christ says all things are clean, through me." But then there's a part a few places later where he says, I think it's like Matthew 14 or something like that, where he goes, "I'm here to fulfill the law." And so when you hear that, people are thinking that, oh, that's another thing that a lot of these people do. A lot of these, they like to hit you with one scripture. They don't, when you read those two scriptures separately, they almost contradict each other. But when you read them together and you read everything that goes in between, he's explaining that I've fulfilled the old law. So you ain't got to worry about that anymore, is what he's saying. But if you read them separate, and that's what these people like to do when they try to sucker you in, they love to fight with. They hit you with a scripture. Hey, this is scripture, and they hit you with one scripture. But you got to read the whole book. You got to remember a lot of that is some of the stuff is parable. So you can't tell a parable is a story that you're supposed to learn from. There's actual historic events that take place, and it's other things. So when you're reading the Bible and they love to hit you with that scripture. That's how they get you. Like, oh man, and then you're like, oh, that's in the Bible. The Bible said that. Yes, but if you take it out of context, it means something completely different. So that's how they get you. That's how they beat you over the head like with a club. And that's something that, like I said, me and my wife were reading and we were talking about. And I'm like, look, this New Testament is super spiritual. The Old Testament is super physical. So, so anybody who focuses on the Old Testament, you're going to have some issues because it's about controlling people. Women can't do
Okay.
anything. You got to be a certain
So
birthright. I'm sorry, what you said?
that's exactly what these leaders, these Cult
Do
leaders
they
are
do it every
about,
time?
they're all
Yes.
about control. Now, there's different elements of control. There's mind control, there's emotional control, there's information control, and there's environment control. Let's talk about mind control real quick. So,
Yes.
controlling the
Manipulation.
thoughts or the train of thought of all of your members. Now, if you look at these members and you see them really as vessels, vessels of potential that you can utilize for your gain. Now, but you have to control them. You have to control them, and you have to use things like guilt to steer their thinking away from questioning the group's authority. Don't trust
Yeah.
your own instincts. Do as you're told. We will think for you. They want to
Or
control the
you run
narrative.
to them for advice. Yeah,
Right.
like you run to them for advice. You couldn't possibly think on your own, or this ain't right, or let me consult pastor. And
Well, see,
or,
what
like I
it
said,
is
we're
though,
not
they,
calling.
they, they, they cause you to question your own intuition.
Yes.
They want you to question your own intuition and come to them. So basically, they are doing the thinking for you. Now, so when I say, don't, we will think for you, that's subconscious. That's a subconscious thought. But that's essentially what they're doing. They're taking the burden of consciousness away from you and controlling it. They're controlling the way you think about things. Now, what they'll do is they'll have you think about, you know, they'll use the way that the outside world views them because it becomes us and
Hmm.
them real quick. And so
Yes, it's a
once it
team.
becomes us versus them, then the group leader becomes a victim. And you're supposed to have sympathy for him because he's your leader. He's guiding everybody. And so then you get to the information control because they want you to, do the research, and
Hold
look
on,
up
hold on.
things.
Go back to mind control. Like,
Yeah.
you grew up in the hood like me, but you ever notice how many of these pimps become preachers?
Yep.
Or how many of these preachers become pimps? It's because they like the reverence, but it's also the fact that they understand, they have a very good grasp of these mind control games. They have a good grasp of how to get people to do what they want and how to have people benefit them. And I don't think it's by accident. I'm not going to explore it because people do fix their lives. People do get their lives together, and I don't want people to think that I'm saying it can't happen. We're big fans of Malcolm. Malcolm was a criminal. Malcolm was a convict. He got his life together. So I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm just saying notice how many times when you deal with these small sects, these different sects, and that's how they start out. They hit you with the pro blackness, like Jesus is black. Oh, that's great. I dig it. And then next thing you know, they taking your wife. We've talked about Yahweh ben Yahweh in the past. These things have happened several times over to black folks, and these are black cults. But that's, like I said, I'm just warning that mind control thing is legit. And then, like my brother's talking about now, information. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So information control is we what we'll do is we ask you to go out and look up things and research, but don't go snooping into the history of the
My stuff.
organization. Don't go snooping into my past or the people that I have excommunicated or the former devotees that are no longer a part of the fold or the circle. Don't go asking them questions because you know what? They went wrong. They were led astray somehow. They went rogue
And they were punished for their actions, that kind of thing.
and they were punished for
Um,
their
I,
actions.
I think one of the things that you learn when you study more, something that the Masons love to hit you with, or people love to hit you with, is Lucifer is knowledge. So, well, knowledge sounds like a good thing. And so people think that having knowledge is this good thing, but no. But we also learn that Christ is the truth. You should be searching for truth. You should not be searching for knowledge. You should want to know what the truth of the situation is. And I think and that's how they manipulate you. Like what Roscoe's saying is that they dangle these little bits of knowledge and like, see, they didn't want you to ask that. And so then you think that this person is giving you knowledge, or they're giving you, so what they're doing is leading you along, and they have a little apple carrot on a string, and they're trying to get you to come along their side. And now this person has knowledge. They're the knowledge bearer or the knowledge keeper. And so again, it makes you dependent on that person, and you think everybody else is a lie. This is the truth. Again, that's how it works. It's a hustle. It's a smoke and mirrors.
Another example of control is emotional control. So there's different ways you can utilize that. One of which is when new members come into the organization, if they're single, if they're just rebounding from a relationship, the leader will pair them, they're going to pair them up with a young person that fits their type. And that they're going to use that young person as an agent to draw in or pull on the emotional heartstrings of that new devotee or that new recruit. And so sex is another way that they use to get people in. So then you have this young, charismatic young lady, and she's like, she's fleeing a relationship with someone that was beating on her. And then, like, they find some, like, knight in shining armor type of, like, cult member. And he's like, he wants to be the number one. He wants to be the XO for the cult leader. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna do whatever the cult leader asks him to do. He's like, listen, you see that girl over there? I want you to be her boyfriend. I want you to be the best, most focused and attentive and nice and most genuinely courteous, chivalrous man that she's ever met. And that guy plays that part just to keep her in line because the cult leader has plans for her. So you have to string her along and keep her under control emotionally and satiate her and make her happy or him, depending on like if it's a woman that's being used to control a man. And so this happens.
Or unhappy too. Don't forget, unhappy is a way to control people also.
Well, but
Um,
fear is a
yes, yeah.
huge controlling factor for many of these cults. And so
Uh,
they'll talk about, they'll use fear like, listen, if you don't believe me, you got the outside world out there and it'll tear you up. Listen, you know what that world is
tear
like.
you apart.
Exactly. They use tyranny. They want you to think that this is the best place for you to be. This is the safe space.
Hey, Roscoe, you don't love this one. There was a preacher here that used to sell drugs, and all these people liked him, and he's real popular. Now I'm talking about Omaha, and you know his name. Well, they actually have a group on YouTube that will meet, and it's like six women, and they talked about all the crap he did. And I've only watched it once or twice, and it's like a couple hours long where people just come on there and they talk about how he manipulated them.
Mm-hmm.
And this one lady said the deepest stuff. I mean, all the other ones were kind of, yeah, he did, yeah. But this one lady was very concise and very deep. And she's like, look, I would go meet with him. We would always meet in this car. We would always talk in silent. And he would always bring up my dead husband. And she said he would like rip the band-aid off. No matter how much healing I would do, he would just rip that band-aid off and bring up my dead husband. I've moved on. He would always do that. And then she realized that's how he controlled her by bringing that up, by ushering that pain back in her heart. That was a way to make her dependent on him, and she would have to come see him every so many months, just to talk. And instead of trying to heal from it, he would always bring up her dead husband, just like. And she said he would rip this emotional band-aid off
That's
every
pimping.
time I got in the
That's
car and
pimping.
talked to him.
That's pimping.
Yeah, uh, yeah. And so that when we're talking about emotional, each one of these things can be used simultaneously, individually, and that's how people spot stuff. But this is supposed to be a teacher. He's supposed to be helping her get through it. He's a minister, and she's like, nah, man, he didn't want me to heal because if I heal, then I'm no longer dependent on him, and his power is gone. And these people key in on that stuff. And we talk about black cults. you know, you made it clear we're gonna focus on black ones, but a lot of black folks join white cults. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a crazy thing. But the bottom line is the fact that when you're searching for something, you're searching outside of yourself. But like I said, New Testament teaches you this. Even the book that you gave me years ago, the Uranus, all that stuff is you build it from the inside first. You got to know yourself before you can know God. That was one of the things that you learn whenever you start studying like Egyptology and this other stuff. You must have knowledge of self. That's something that you always heard the Muslim preach. You must have knowledge of self. So if you don't know yourself, then how can you possibly know God? You don't know who you are, or how could you possibly have a spiritual relationship with anybody? And so this young lady, once she got knowledge of self, she no longer needed that guy, that so-called minister. So I'm sorry.
So
Go ahead.
we talked about mind control, emotional control, information control, and now we'll come to environmental control. So, some of these people that join these cults come from broken homes and
Hmm.
they lack a family structure. And so, right away, what they see is what they've been lacking, and that's structure. A community that provides fellowship, that provides belonging, that provides shelter, because some of these people may have been homeless, that provides
Physical, yeah,
food for them to
physical.
eat. But yet, all you have to do is commit and give your devotion to the supreme leader, and he will take care of everything. All you have to do is do as he says and don't question. So then, these people who have these different ideals, whether they're the codependent, whether they're the sex addict, whether that person is
Mm,
the
mm.
the control freak or perfectionist, these people all find that under the roof of the strong man. Now, that strong man concept, people in politics look for the strong man. The American presidency. America is the most powerful civilization on the planet Earth, the most powerful um, regime in the world with its military. And it's always this invisible, unspoken fight to have a man in that chair that is a strong figure. White
That you
people
believe in.
that voted for Trump want a strong man. That's why they voted for him, because all the rest of the Republicans in 2016 were a bunch of pushovers. And he came through talking shit, being loud and brash, being a TV show guy, and he fucking won because he did the strongman thing. So that strongman is the cult leader, and that cult leader has all these different type of sheep in his stable, and he's the one shepherding these fragile, brittle souls toward his Xanadu, towards his paradise. You know.
Hey, just for the record, white supremacy is a cult. You
Mm-hmm.
know, people, you put it on a pedestal and you search for this person and you want to be protected. But the fact is this: it's like you just said, these fragile people, and that's why people get outraged so easily because they're fragile. A strong person doesn't get outraged like that. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh no, they're calculated. The funniest thing you said earlier made me think of Daddy Rich in Car Wash. Remember
Hmm.
the song?
Yeah.
If you don't believe in something, you might
Yep.
as well believe in me.
Yep.
That's the logic that these people hit you with. Like, look, hey, I ain't saying ain't nothing else out there, but I'm saying
I got a good
believe in
thing
me.
going.
Yeah,
So, hey, going back to
you got it.
information control, when Malachi York and the Nubians were in their prime, they would go around Atlanta and they had these little like miniature books, like these pamphlets, and it was like maybe like a third of the size of the Farmer's Almanac, and
Mm.
it had all this information that was cobbled together from like different stuff. Like I would see these dudes like downtown Atlanta, and they would be like, "Yo, you got the right knowledge?" I'm like, "Stop, wait a minute, the right knowledge." And then that would just like go into this conversation where I saw and I exposed what their knowledge base was. It was this gumbo of half-assed like information that wasn't researched fully. And so they would take like little like nicks and pieces about like Nikola Tesla and they would put it into the book. But they wouldn't talk about like everything about the Tesla, just like just certain things that pertain to like reinforce what they were talking about at the time. And they would talk about Merkabahs and like sacred geometry and like all this cool shit. And but it would never give you enough. It'd be just enough to keep you buying the next book. And then in the next book, it would never be enough. It'd just be like a third of a paragraph about anti-gravity technology. And I'm like, this is it? This is all you got? Oh man, listen, if you want to hear all of it, you gotta go to Tom Ray. No, I don't.
No, I don't.
I just need to go to a black bookstore. I just need to go to Borders or Barnes and Noble and just read the book myself, because this shit y'all talking about right here, I could teach your fucking class. You know what I'm saying? Like
But but
this is not giving me what I need.
but that's the whole issue is that the ignorance among African Americans, Black, Moors, whatever you want to call us, is so great that when you get a little bit of knowledge from somebody, it that doesn't it makes you hungry for more. It
Yep.
doesn't quench your thirst. It actually makes you long
But
for more. I remember,
a person that doesn't know better fell for that
yes,
hook, line, and sinker all the time. And it would always be these guys that look like they're on the fringe of just falling the fuck apart, and they selling these books and oils. I'm like, bro,
you know, my brother,
like this is your hustle, like for
final
real,
call, final
yeah.
call, man.
Yeah, like come on, man, like for real,
Oh,
this is the best that he's doing for y'all. He got y'all on the
but
train
but
selling this shit.
but there's something you got to understand that we had it very good being in Omaha. We had a good principal at the grade school we went to. We had my mom, we had your mom, we had your father. I remember one time your dad made me look at the Bible and explain to me where the where the Garden of Eden was, and you know he spent an hour with me on this. So what happens when these other people try to hit me with this stuff? I learned it years ago. I learned it where I was supposed to learn it. I learned it in school.
Right.
Going back to the teacher I had, when I say going back, this is a conversation we had on the other podcast. The guy was Polish. He was the one who taught me all this pro-black stuff. He was in SNCC. He was with the Black Panthers at Oakley. So when he hit me with he was the one that said, you know, Jesus is black. What are you talking about? You know, Moses is black, and he's hitting me with this stuff, but he's not. He doesn't want anything in return. He was a history teacher from South that was teaching me at Creighton University. So he
Bruh,
say what, boss?
check this out, man. So today, I was at the store and I overheard this woman snickering at the name Bathsheba. It was a black woman. She had braids and everything, right?
Oh my goodness.
So she was snickering at the name Bathsheba. I just had to stop. Hold up, sis. She said, "What a silly name. Like, why? It's so rare. Why would you give a child that name?" I said, "Well, first of all, it was a popular name in the 70s to call a black woman Sheba.
Mm-hmm.
Bathsheba was a black Ethiopian because King David was into sisters. So
Mm-hmm.
I schooled her on that. I was like, so hang on now. So there's nothing wrong with that name. Actually, it's a good name to give a little girl. And it's a name that's easily recognizable and it would probably open doors for her on a job interview as opposed to like some shit that you can't pronounce that has no lineage. So yeah, that's a good name. There's nothing wrong with that. And then I told her like Sheba was black, and she didn't know that. I'm like, yeah,
But that's the whole issue, and that goes back to the ignorance part of us. When somebody spoon feeds you your own religion, you know the whole
bro.
Christianity
It's
thing.
in the Song of Solomon. If you read the Song of Solomon, it explains how black she
I'm
is.
bl- oh no. How about Solomon was black? When you read the like fifth verse, it says, "I am black.
Yeah,
I was I was blessed by the sun. I was forced to work my
right,
father's vineyards." He's
right.
breaking it down that he was black.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah. But the thing is though, but Sheba though, but you know what I'm saying. But I'm talking about like black women and like imagery. Like this is important.
yes, Queen of Sheba.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, she
Like
ran Kush. She was the queen of Kush.
Kush, and
Yes,
we ain't
the
talking
queen
about
of Ethiopia.
trees. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, but that's how dumb that is. Black folks who smoke weed don't know the name Kush
they don't know shit
is a
about the
scoop to
real
Ethiopia.
Kush.
Yeah, they don't know Kush is Ethiopia. And the other problem that we face, again, this is we try to give you knowledge so you won't be sucked in by these cults, is that present day Ethiopia is way smaller than biblical Ethiopia. Present day Kemet is much smaller than historic Kemet. So Egypt back then, Egypt now is a minor part.
Well,
Egypt back then,
Eritrea used to be part of Ethiopia up until like maybe a decade ago. So there's that, you know, and then
yeah,
part of
that's just now.
Somalia was Ethiopia too. So
Yes,
there's that
you
too.
dig it.
But
So when you look at historic Kush,
see, but
it
all of
goes
that's
the whole
Nubia. That's all that is Nubia.
Nubia, very good. And they tell you that Nubia is worked its way up into Egypt because there were Nubian pharaohs. But the reason is that whenever we talk about Egypt, we're looking at how the Egyptians look now. And until you got to get that out your head. Second, you got to understand that Egypt, Kemet, went from West Africa all the way to Russia. Yes,
Egypt
Russia.
used to be a
So
swamp. It was a swamp before erosion caused all that sand to
to
come
get there,
to blow there
yes.
all the way from the Sahara. So
Look,
I
if you
mean,
want to get deep, if you want to get deeper, back in antiquity, the Nile ran east and west, and there was a huge freshwater lake in Western Africa. Again, I don't want, since you can't see it now, it's hard for y'all to picture. But the Nile ran differently. And so when you realize how big Egypt was, and you realize it goes all the way to Russia, why do you think they have Black Georgia in Russia? Why is it called Black Georgia?
So
Because the
listen,
people
if you
are.
buy this next book, we will explain further what you're
Yeah.
talking about. You see. Hey, so listen, to keep things on track, there is another organization some people in Alabama and Georgia might know about, and that is the Assembly of Divine Reality, also known as the Worldwide Church of God, also known as IDMR, which is the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research. And that was started by Henry Kinley and Bishop Willie Jones.
Hmm.
Yes. And but see, these guys, what they did is they basically used all these same tactics that other cult leaders would: the emotional control, the information control, fear control, environment control. What they would do is they would play the victim and they would say, you know, the devil is out to get me. And let me tell you how. They want us to pay all these taxes. So, we're going to become a church. Then we're going to open bookstores and daycares because that's what they have now. They have daycares and bookstores in Alabama. But somehow they got run up out of Georgia. And I think because they burnt down some buildings through arson trying to collect a bunch of money. And they tried to extort a bunch of money from like their members and they just got ran up out of town. So they would also play the victim and they would always tell their members that look it up, research it for yourself. Time after time, the members of the church of their organization began to see that these people didn't like it when they would question them. So you're teaching your organization members to question authority, just not your authority. Yeah. So that's it. They have a lot of a lot of questionable stuff that they did regarding like arson and trying to get money from their members. But that's more of a local southeast one. Pretty much like it's not really known outside of the South, but that's another black cult right there. That yeah, they manipulate people with mind control and thought control, and the
Hey,
whole. Go ahead.
you talk about environmental control. Um, that environmental control can be anything from actually holding somebody hostage, locking them in the house, limiting how much food they can have, limiting their access to water.
What's that sound
That
like?
environmental
What does
control.
that sound like? That
Oh,
sounds like that sounds like quarantine. Go ahead though.
yeah. Uh, we're in agreement. But what I'm saying is that when you look at these cults, these are the type of things they're doing. Like I said, I try not to rehash what we talked about in the past, but Yahweh being Yahweh, we know about him in Miami and Florida. Dude came out of Oklahoma,
Yep, he's from
and
Kingfisher, Oklahoma, and
Kingfisher, Oklahoma.
he started the Nation of Yahweh, and
Yeah, yep,
his influence grew, but it was mostly centered around the southeast and a little bit into the Midwest. But the problem
yes,
is
yes.
he was a criminal and he was a con man.
Uh,
Hold on. He
but
was a criminal and a con man from the beginning because as you told in several episodes before this one, the people that knew him as a kid knew that him and his father was full of shit.
Yeah, a lady told me, she said his grandfather did the same thing like back in Kingfisher, and that's when you realize. See, when she first told me, I'm like, no, that's not true. I looked it up. Yes, they've been running this hustle for years. He just took it nationwide, and again, he wasn't. He was. The problem was he was a legitimate businessman. He took the tides from these people and legitimately bought buildings and businesses. That's where it gets kind of dicey. The man actually, I ain't gonna say he did good stuff. I'm saying he acquired wealth.
Well,
Acquiring wealth
the guy was
is
born
complicated.
Hulon Mitchell Jr. and
Elon Mitchell Jr.
AKA Yahweh Ben Yahweh. And from 1990 to 2001, he served 11 years of an 18-year sentence for conspiracy involvement in several murders. So
Yes.
the people that like were attempting to expose him, he had them killed. And he had his heavy was a guy named Rozier. Now I thought that Rozier, this guy, was related to Mike Rozier, the '83 Nebraska Heisman Trophy
Nebraska
winner who
football
played for the
player.
Houston
Yeah.
Oilers. No, not the same guy, not related. But he had his ex NFL player who played in NFL in Canada. He was the guy. He was the goon, and he would go out and kill people based on Mitchell's orders.
It wasn't just people that disagreed with him. One of the guys they killed, like in his home, was a guy that wouldn't move. Remember, like I said, they bought real estate and they couldn't get the people to move, so they sent his people in just to handle that. And so when you realize that, first things first, absolute power corrupts absolutely. This guy was in charge of a lot of people, so it's hard not to become corrupt. You know, when you have that much power, he was sleeping with everybody's wife. He was having kids with everybody. He was doing all this crazy stuff. But at the same time, like I said, he amassed wealth. I think they said $300 to $700 million of real estate in the Miami area. So he was legitimately, getting money from these people, buying property. But he wasn't taking care of his people. He would take care of them a little bit, like I said, give them places to stay. He would witness to the women separately, and the men had to go out. Yeah, he did a lot of shady stuff. But again, how did he start doing it? Goes back to, he was speaking Hebrew. He was telling black folks that Christ was black. He was telling them that we're the original Hebrews. It's the same thing that's going on right now. Fact of the matter is, I do agree with those beliefs, but I don't let somebody feed it to me or keep it from me or just manipulate the information from me, because I had to go find it on my own. Somebody introduced me to it, again, that wanted nothing in return. I was fortunate, but these other people, when they introduce you to it, they want your loyalty. They want you to follow them. They want you to bring the tithes to their door. And that's what you got to understand, that when I'm speaking of Old Testament, the Levitical priests ran everything. So when the tithes didn't go to God, they went to the priests. And when you understand that, so we'll talk about nowadays. I'm not dissing Catholics, but I'm saying pay attention to how that stuff works. A lot of the stuff they're doing is Old Testament, even though they believe in the New Testament. A lot of the stuff they're doing is Old Testament. When you pray, your prayer goes to the Pope, then it goes to Saint Peter, then it goes to Mary. Then it gets filtered. Yeah, it literally gets filtered. Then it goes to Christ. Then it goes to God. That's not what was taught in the New Testament. And you got to understand that whenever they set up this kind of hierarchy or bureaucracy of religion, when you have a lot of bureaucracy, that is meant to get your money. That's meant to dilute things, and that's what happens. Same thing with Hulan Jr. Yahweh ben Yahweh. Yeah, he changed his name to God, Son God. He was the God, Son of God, and yeah, that took balls right there. I don't know how that nigga could walk. Yeah, I don't know how that nigga could walk. His balls had to be huge, but that's what he's doing. He's collecting ties. He's telling people that I'm the chosen one. It's an honor to be around me. I got a mission for you, send you out of town, fuck your wife, that kind of shit. And so black folks get sucked up into that because we're looking for identity.
Bro,
and so
black folks get sucked up into the cult of personality. Listen, Jada,
hold on.
Jada Smith and Will
oh, man.
are up on TV talking about all their business that we don't need to know. That stuff that don't affect us, that doesn't concern us at all. They are monetizing.
Pay attention.
Hold up. They are monetizing their emotional detritus. Okay.
Hold on, but what you got to understand is that black folks who watch that red table, red chair, whatever it's called, they actually think that they have a connection to those people.
Right.
Like, I'm just like them because they got my problems.
No, you're not.
You're not like them.
I don't idolize any celebrity relationship. If anything, I know it's a I know it's a disaster. I know it's going to be a clusterfuck. Like, I don't want my life to be I don't want my love life to be anything like theirs. But that's the cult of personality.
That's the connection. Like, oh, I'm just like this. Let me point something out. So we all know what's going on with that. If you don't know, she slept with somebody else, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to make that guy famous. But there's something else going on in their lives that's not being publicized. And if you pay attention, they're actually controlling the narrative. Jaden Smith is dying. Jaden has that disease where he can't digest food. And so their son is dying. And they're not talking about that. They're controlling the narrative. Pay attention to what they're doing. They're actually controlling what they talk about. They're not talking about anything significant. Hey, Willow cried. Big damn deal. That nigga, look, that nigga got 50, 60 million in the bank. Cry all you want. Go lay on that money. You know what I'm saying? So stop pretending like these celebrities have something in common with you, because that's how they hook you. Like, oh my God, but that's the same shit that these cults use to hook you. Like, hey, Jesus is black. They kept that from you. They kept that knowledge from you. And you're like, oh, for
But they
real?
use those nuggets of hope. They use those nuggets of yearning for identity, for truth. People not yearning for knowledge. People yearning for truth. That's what they're going for, and they exploit the shit out of that. The same way you talked about those women used to belong to that pastor's church and how he would always rip off the band-aid. Listen, man, it's the same type of manipulation. It's pimping on a whole different level. That's fourth dimensional Star Trek chess right there.
Look, I'm going to upset some people.
Do it.
I get it. You
Fuck
know,
it.
a lot of black folks are Israelites and all that. But when the Bible was written, you know, with three. First things first, the first book in the Bible is not Genesis, it's Exodus. Exodus was written first, but we'll discuss that later. When all that was happening, wasn't Israel, you know, wasn't that part of Egypt? Egypt ruled that whole area. So how are you calling yourself Israelites? Shouldn't you be calling yourself Egyptians? Because wasn't that part of Egypt? Didn't Egypt own that? Didn't everybody have to go to Egypt?
But
Christ
remember,
went to Egypt.
remember, the Red Sea was what separated it, though.
No, but you're missing what I'm saying. Egypt ran the entire area. So look, whenever they talk about Rome, you know, you think of Rome now, you think of Italy now.
Yeah.
You got to remember, Rome ran all that, going all the way to France. So what I'm saying is that nation was much larger in antiquity than it is now.
Yeah.
And so when you sit there and look how things look at now, you're like, oh, okay, nah, bruh. Who was in charge then? Where was everything taking place at? So the word, and that's another thing, the word Egypt means bondage. So you got to understand, like, nah, it's Kemet. Kemet was all over. It was much larger in antiquity than it is now.
Let me ask you a question. Back in the day, when we were just wide open on all this consciousness and learning about this stuff for the first time, I'm talking about when we were 12 and 13 and 14, we were tweens, and we were learning about this stuff, Behold the Pale Order and all that. We were learning about these things. How was your discernment back then? Like, could you tell when you came across a person that was only had a little bit of knowledge, but was trying to lie like they had more?
Okay, that's complicated. I didn't. Okay, you mean like a kid, or you mean like an adult
No, we were tweens.
like
We were tweens. We weren't kids no more. We weren't teenagers. Around
yeah,
13, okay. 14, like when we were starting to wake up.
I remember there was this dude, and he would jump the fence on this. Okay, he kept saying he was Muslim, right? So we're in the cafeteria at my high school, and he said, "Hey man, I don't drink milk. I'm Muslim." I said it's Hindu. Hindus don't drink milk. Muslims don't eat pork. He said, "Oh yeah." So he started drinking the milk in front of me. I'm like, so you didn't even know? Oh wow. My God!
So that's all it took. That was all it took. Just that you didn't put up no argument whatsoever. You just gave in like that.
No fight. Yeah, I'm like,
I just had to use the H word and say Hindu, and like, you was like, all right, cool. I don't know nothing about that, but you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I said, you dumbass. I said, Muslims drink milk. It's the Hindus that don't drink milk. He said, oh yeah. I said, yeah, Muslims don't eat pork.
Wait.
So
Hindus do too drink milk.
Hindus worship cows. Remember?
Hold on. Stop.
Worship cows.
Hold on. You got your information messed up. I know a lot of Hindus. The thing is, they eat dairy products. They're vegetarian. They're not vegan.
No. Hold it. I get what you're saying, but you're not understanding what I'm saying. This is what he told me. He said, I don't drink milk because I'm Muslim. I'm like, that's Hindus that don't fuck with cows. Yeah. I know what you're saying. I might have it wrong, but
no. But the fact that you even like said that and like it was so easy to convert him that fast.
Yes, that's my point. I might be wrong about the dairy products. I do apologize. I know Hindus. I know they think cows and reincarnation. That's their family members. I understand that. This cat didn't understand what the fuck he was laying on me. So yeah, I dealt with it at a young age, but I really dealt with it more when I went to a black college. And so you get there and you got every black sect. You got every religion. You got Muslims. You got Israelites. You got Christians. You got pro-black. You got pro-black conservatives. So yeah, I got more of that when I got to college. But I had read so many of the books before, and these guys are trying to lay shit on you. And I'm like, I read that book in high school. And they're like, you did? Like, yeah. And they couldn't believe that I was exposed to that stuff already.
Dude,
a lot of the drug.
That was so crazy. The thing is, though, is that, we had the benefit of learning this stuff earlier than most people because I had a class in high school, and it was an African American history class. This was a new thing, like across the U.S. And the crazy
What was your textbook?
hold up. But the crazy thing is, people would run to this class. Black kids that were like late for other classes that didn't give a fuck. Everybody was like attentive. Everybody in the back, I'm talking about the class clowns, everybody. They were just like wrapped with attention. They were just on the edges of their seats, listening to every word. It was incredible. And so we had like a couple of different books. Like we had Destruction of African Civilization from 2000 BC to 2000
Yes.
AD by Chancellor Williams. We had Exploding the Myths
Yep.
by Anthony Browder. We had The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. We had a lot of good stuff that we were reading, bro. Like
The,
this
ma- the, the,
class was
the main one
phenomenal.
we had was the one They Came Before Columbus by Dr.
Ex-
Ivan Van Sertima.
yeah.
And it was thick.
But the thing is, man, is like, and our teacher, she was fine. She was fine as hell. But I mean, and then she's fine and she dropping knowledge, bro. Like everybody was just hypnotized. It was incredible.
Glued to the seats. I just like, wow. Look,
But the thing
look,
is,
hold on.
I wonder if those kids, some of those kids in those classes went on to like join cults. I mean, I never followed up with every single one of them, but I bet like at least one or two of them dabbled in like in a cult or two because there were personality flaws. Everybody has some kind of personality flaw, and like from the aforementioned causes that people join, cults, somebody is looking for something, and in that thirst for knowledge, that thirst for like truth, they run into these tricksters. They run into these
Um,
people that if possible, they'll manipulate them.
that's some deep shit. But I think first things first, cult and culture go hand in hand. Don't ever think that everything is just that far apart.
Hmm.
But I do think what stopped people from getting sucked in so much is that every time you see a murderer or every time you see one of these things on TV, they always think of the word cult or occultist or Satanist and shit like that. So those words,
The
um,
word occult means hidden.
yeah. Uh, but what I'm saying is those words are out. The media throws those out there so much that people actually do not want to belong to anything that they would deem a cult. They're like, oh, you believe what? That's a little bit too extreme for me. Like I said, the biggest thing when we're talking about these black cults is that being disenfranchised, being broke, not having a culture, not having a identity. Not one, we do have culture, but I'm saying that when it's not presented to you in a certain way, not having black nationalism, not having nationalism as in not knowing where we literally come from, it makes you very susceptible to anything that makes you feel good. And I tell this to my kids a lot. You got to remember, there's a difference between being good and feeling good. So these people feel good, but they're not always in a good, healthy situation. That's a whole problem when people use drugs. It makes them feel better, but doesn't always make them better, like financially or secure in other ways. So that's how these things are. These cults, they make you feel better. They give you something you need, but they don't give you what you need to be independent. Because if they gave you what it took to be
They're like those
independent,
books that I was telling you about. These what they call the right knowledge. They would always call it the right knowledge. You got to have the right knowledge, the right knowledge. And they were these little skimpy ass little pamphlets that had like little tickles of information. And so this is why I'm asking you about discernment, because after the African American history class like light my skull on fire with all this dope information and going to like me and you used to go to like the African bookstore.
American Bookstore,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we would go in.
Dude just died. Dude just died this week, just so you know.
Oh man, damn! Rest in peace. I hope they keep that thing open. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm pretty sure we will.
but what I wanted to say is that like it wasn't just knowledge itself that helped me to develop my discernment. That wasn't it. That came from a lifetime of spiritual sparring, of learning things. You and I learning things together. You know what I'm saying? As friends, as children. Learning things on my own. Out, being around adults and like being around people that were on cocaine and people who did heroin and like seeing these things and then going back to my home, which is safe. You know what I'm saying? And like talking about it with my dad.
Look, the thing that helped me was when I was in college, I had Day Day. So rest in peace, Day Day
Rest in peace,
passed a couple
Daddy.
years back. But he was just like you. So I went from one secure situation where
To
I
another
could
one.
talk real
So
with somebody.
and you could vibe with him the way you and I
Yeah,
vibe. Yeah.
yeah, and so that helped me. That helped my discernment. Now, I tell you the same story because we talk about Behold the Pale Horse. Is that when you read that book and then you experience something, I can run it by him. I'm like, dude, I just saw this, and that was in Behold the Pale Horse. This shit's real. Oh my god, you know what I'm saying? So that's a big part of discernment. Having somebody having an honest person around. We're not all blessed with that. I
Mm.
had you in the beginning, and I still got you. I had somebody else, and so you got to understand, Roscoe, that when you run these ideas past somebody, when you watch these documentaries on Freemason, when you watch these documentaries, and then you run and read the book, and you read this, and
So you have fellowship.
yeah,
You
so
have fellowship.
yeah, it's very important to have somebody to bounce those ideas off of that's going to tell you the truth,
Right.
and that's hard to come by.
Yeah, and see, and you know what? And that component right there is another reason why people join cults because they want to be around like minds and they want to be, in a place where they feel like they can either be validated or somebody who's gonna like just tell them,
Yes,
what needs to be heard at the time. Even though they're probably not gonna get that because they'll wind up in an echo chamber where they're being told what the
what
leader
they what they what
wants
they
them
want
to
to
hear.
what they want to hear,
You
what they
know,
want to hear.
and it's
Yeah,
like,
look,
are you staying on
that's how
message?
these people get sucked up in the clan and things like that. It's much easier when you have when somebody's saying what you want to hear. When somebody's saying that, it changes everything. You're not searching for I feel at home, but I was fortunate enough to have look, when people don't make friends, I'm not saying that you got to be super social,
No.
but it is important to have maybe having two or three
But
people
hey, but
that click
like
that.
cool people recognize each other.
Oh, 100. And that's something nobody wants to admit. Yeah, they do recognize you. Like, hey, game recognized game. You hear all that stuff.
Hmm.
That's what. Like, okay, but I'm with somebody who's like minded, yes, but honest. Like, hey, bro, that's a bad idea. Why would you do that? That kind of shit.
Right.
I always had you to tell me like, man, that was dumb as fuck. Cuz, what the fuck you doing? Like, and I'm like, man, fuck you, dude.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, but then you play it back in your head and replay like, you know what? I almost got shot.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
why was I doing that?
And you
Um,
need people to check you, every now and then. Like, what I'm saying? Like if you see like one of your friends and talking about, yeah, I found this group and they pretty cool, man. And all I gotta do is just go there like, 4 days a week and, do what they asking you to do, man. There's this curtain. I just gotta keep the curtain shut while the master is behind. Master? Why are you calling this motherfucker master? You black. Don't call nobody master. Fuck is wrong with you, man?
look,
You know what? You right, bro. Like that's I don't know. Hold on. How'd you get involved with this shit? Was it some pussy? Yeah, man. But listen, I'm just helping her out, man, to get through a tough situation. Hold on. Wait. Whoa. What? Hold on. You met this broad and she took you to this camp, okay, and you ate some soup, and then like now you started talking and thinking like these people. Listen, man, you need to check yourself. You on some real bullshit right
look,
now, okay? That's a
look.
cult.
When you woke up, your ass was hurting. What was that about? No. Look. How do I want to say this appropriately? What uh, what people must understand is that manipulation is a two-way street. The people are wrong for trying to manipulate you, but you're also wrong for being manipulated. You got to recognize that shit. You got to see what's up. You got to have some discernment, clean your eyes.
Naivete.
And I
Get
think,
rid of that.
yeah, yeah. Um, I had two or three things I wanted to say, but I was listening to what you were saying. I got them that fast. It's what the issue is that in this day and age that we don't people are comfortable in their ignorance on purpose. So when something hits them so hard, they gotta recognize it. Well, like damn, but don't attribute the knowledge to the person giving it to you. Attribute the knowledge to being the truth.
Mm.
If it's true, it don't matter who's presenting it to you.
Mm.
And that's
Say that right
and
there.
we're focusing way too much on the presenter and not the knowledge itself. And again, I just told you I don't care about knowledge. I want the truth. That Luciferian shit is about knowledge.
Mm.
I want Christ. I want the truth. And when somebody gives you the truth, it's undeniable. You can't argue with that shit. It's like, okay, and you got to rationalize, and some things, matter. But like I told you, like I had people telling me I was doing dumb shit. I had people looking out for me. I was able to fight, so I was never worried about peer pressure and some of the other things these people went through. So my mama prepared me for this life. So a cult ain't the way.
Yeah.
It would take a pretty strong cult to suck me in. You dig?
Right.
They would have to bribe me all kinds of ways. And the thing that you said about a sister being involved, look, too many times we're looking for love, but whenever a nigga tells a story, he's always tells you like love was an excuse. Like, yeah, man, I co-signed that car, but I loved her. Love should not be an excuse.
Oh,
Love should be a motivation. Do you understand? See, people, hey, man, like, man, that bitch took all my shit, or like, hey, this nigga got a car in my name, but I don't get to drive it, it's fixing my credit.
yeah. You
Like,
belong to his
yeah,
cult.
but I
You
loved her.
belong to his
Yeah, yeah,
cult.
yeah. These are small cults, but what I'm saying is that whenever those people tell you that, they always preface it by saying, "But I was in love." Like, no, man, no, dude. If you're in love or somebody loves you, they should love you back. Loving somebody and they don't love you back don't mean shit. So recognize that love is a motivating factor. I love my children, I love my wife, I love my brother on the mic. I love y'all. So you motivate me to do the right thing, but you don't use me. And so that's what you understand is that love thing. If love is an excuse, then that's not real love. If love is a motivation, then it's genuine and it's from a higher power. So that's what you got to understand. But yeah, man, shit. I found some makeup in my car. I wonder if he bought it for me. Like, no,
Mm,
nah, nigga.
dummy.
Get that nigga using you. And so that's the same thing with these cults. It's the same way. Is like, oh man, but pastor said this. Oh man, but master such and such said this. Oh, bishop said that. So you got to make sure it's love and it's genuine, and they love you back the same way you love them. Because love is not a one-way street. Because if it is, one hand can't clap, my nigga.
I mean,
It takes more.
there's that, but like also consider these cults don't really want you to prosper on your own.
No, nope.
They don't want you getting that money on your own. And if you do start getting that money, they want your assets to be their assets. They want to control you. And these methods of control are real. I've never seen a cult member that's like just killing the game. I've never seen a cult member that is just like blowing it up and getting crazy money, making all these moves. No, that individuality goes away. It dissolves. And it dissolves into the consciousness of the leader. And you become a little bubble, a little life pod in the matrix, in his matrix. He's sucking all your energy, just like Neo woke up and he looked around and he saw all those people in those matrix pods, where now you're in the matrix pod of this cult leader. And he's sucking your
Like,
energy.
yeah, he becomes we. Like, we did this and we did that when you did all the hard work and you're getting used. Look, you don't have to look for a family. You don't have to look for family. Family will find you, or family will present itself where you're like, okay, this person genuinely cares about me. And family ain't always blood. We get that. But that's what's going on with these cults. They're creating a family. Then there's a symbiotic relationship where they're benefiting and you're not. We're not saying that religion is bad. We're saying being manipulated is bad. Being used is bad. That's what the problem is.
And then also
And
awareness prevents you from falling into these scenarios, because awareness of self and self-love, self-respect prevents you from falling into the control of some charismatic, cult leader. And the thing is, it's not all just men that are doing this. So let's not play that game and say that, this is just a man, dominated thing. No, because there's women that are just as despicable, that are fucking up shit and like destroying lives. Hillary Clinton is one of
yeah.
them. Okay, people that enable cult leaders, the women that enable cult leaders that are part of this. And I want to speak to that also. The subjugation of black women in these organizations and used for, sexual gain or sexual conquest is a big part of these black cults. And it's things you don't find out about until later. It's the stuff that goes on behind that curtain that I was talking about. It's the things that the cult leader wants to keep hidden. is the control of these black women. And I heard about it so many times from different sisters who told me that they got involved with these different groups and they were manipulated and used as sexual objects and disrespected and oppressed. So they're getting it from both sides. They're getting oppression from white people out in the world, and then they're getting it from our
And
own.
then home,
Yes, from
home.
home.
Look,
So that's
look.
just fucked up all the way around. So then, you know, what we got is what I'm saying here is that the subjugation of women ain't cool for personal gain or otherwise. All right, that's bullshit. But these cults, be they Yahweh ben Yahweh, or the Nuwabians, or the IDMR, the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research, all of them manipulate women. Okay? There's women who manipulate other women inside these cults to be used for
That's
the
the most
cult leader.
important one. Yeah, when you got a woman telling another woman something, that's how they suck them
No,
in.
no, no, but no,
Look,
no, no. But when that woman is like basically guiding her in a way
yes,
that is
yeah.
going against that own woman's intuition, and as a woman, your intuition is stronger than anything. And if you've turned that off and you've given that ability over to another woman, that's going to give you to a man to be used and thrown away, you have just signed your spiritual and emotional death certificate. So, in closing, what I want to say is basically these men and women, black men and women, who have taken advantage of good black people who were looking for salvation, who were looking for sanctuary from a cold, racist world, were manipulated, abused, and killed in some situations by these evil black ass reptilians. Shame on them, shame on their houses that begat them. We know that going forward, we cannot let this continue. How do we prevent that? With discernment. You have to use your discernment. You have to love yourself enough to know that you ain't gonna fall for the okie doke. You have to love yourself to know that you will not be guided by others. Use your own internal compass. It will tell you where you need to go and what you need to do. Don't fall
Look,
victim and be prey.
it's real simple. Nigga, take a history class. Sisters, take a class. And when I say that, take that class and then you get out there and you start finding these books and this information on your own. How people get you is when you don't have knowledge of your own history and you don't recognize that you are history. Out of the 12,000 years of known history, and then you find out black folks have been around 250,000 years or 300,000 years, and then it kills everything they're telling you. And we are not monkeys. We never came from monkeys. That's some other race. I don't know what the hell they telling you. But when you do your actual research and you find out that how far we go back, and that changes how you feel about yourself. And then nobody else is in control of your happiness or your spiritual well-being. You are. So take a class, research, read, and recognize that you are in pages of the Bible. Recognize that you're in the Quran. Recognize that you're in the Torah. So then that way, can't nobody bring that to you,
Queen
beat
Sheba.
you over the head with it. Yes, and drag you out by your hair and take you someplace else. Um, yeah, that's it. Ain't nothing else to say.
One last thing I want to say. Let's keep this street for a second. Ain't no pimp, hustler, or scam ass con man or player ever gonna do anything to make your situation better. Know when somebody is trying to play your ass. All right? Don't make it Disney all the time. Make it street when it needs to be and use some damn common sense. That's all I'm saying. You got anything else, duct tape?
All of that.
Peace.